Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to be here at the MacGill Summer School this afternoon. I'm no stranger to MacGill, and I know that it's a very important summer school, particularly on the political calendar. Now, I know that we're under time pressure, so I'm going to have to dispense of some of my speech already. But it's just to say that I'm delighted to be in the Glenties, a rural part of Ireland, a very beautiful rural part of Ireland, and it has all the ingredients that I look for as I travel up and down the whole of Ireland, looking at rural communities and finding ways that rural communities can fight back. And as I do travel, I am finding that there is a resilience there, that people now have found that. Now, we did have the Celtic Tiger, it's over and done with now, it's dead and buried, but now we want to get on with our lives. And that is the sense that I find as I travel through communities up and down the whole of Ireland. I'm not sure if you've noticed by now, but there is a common thread that runs through the panel here this afternoon, and it really cannot be underestimated how extremely important planning is, how extremely important community is. And community for me is one of my priorities, and towns and villages also across Ireland are one of my priorities. And I also had the privilege to launch with Bobby Kerr at the Ploughing Championships his Taking Back the High Street initiative, and I was really, really delighted to be a part of that. And I was delighted that Bobby indeed allowed me to be part of that. For the purpose of this afternoon, please allow me to set out my optimistic vision for rural Ireland. And as somebody who comes from a rural community, I know only too well the contribution that rural communities have made to the overall national development, as well as to the development of our own local areas. The evidence is clear. Rural areas make a significant contribution to the production of raw materials and activities which drive significant parts of our national economic life, such as agriculture, food, tourism, construction materials and energy. Developing and maintaining a vibrant rural economy is therefore of major national importance, as well as of particular interest to the significant part of the population that live in these rural areas. The crucial importance of support for agriculture, forestry, fishing and tourism and their associated industries is a given. Many people live in rural communities in Ireland, and many members of these communities live in the countryside. These communities cannot and will not be abandoned by government. I think it's fair to say that historically, policies in relation to rural development have been sectorally based. The emphasis was more on developing a particular sector of the economy, rather than on the development of a particular area. Agriculture was seen as the sector which had the most impact on rural areas. I am glad to say that we now take a more spatial or place-focused approach, which focuses on integrated development of local and geographical areas. The Government is committed to implementing a strategy for rural development on the basis of an inclusive approach to sustainable development, the integration of policies, a regional dimension and partnership, real partnership with the rural community. My own vision for rural Ireland is of vibrant, inhabited areas with residential communities balanced in demographic terms with regard to age and also with regard to gender. The communities living in these areas experiencing a quality of life at least as high as the quality of life experienced in urban areas, including access to a necessary range of services, and Bobby outlined very eloquently one of those particular services, that is the post office network. My vision also includes rural areas maximising their economic potential and contributing in a very positive way to the national and global programme of development, which is both beneficial today and sustainable in the longer term. I acknowledge that rural areas need to be managed in a way that protects their environmental quality and that recognises the contribution of the environment to a high quality of life. Agricultural production will, of course, continue to be a significant element of the rural economy. Rural areas will need to develop their capacity to address future safe energy needs and food security needs, as well as conserving their natural environment. In my vision, the communities of rural areas and their settlements will rely on their local areas for an increasing amount of their food requirements, but I also want to see that these areas providing a level of enterprise that minimises the need for their populations to commute to major urban centres for employment purposes. And again, Bobby referred to that, at how decimated that all our communities were through the emigration cycle that seems to always befell Ireland. My vision is one where rural areas will have locations that have the capacity, facilities and opportunity to develop, retain and profit from high quality social capital, which they themselves will generate. This social capital is largely based on the strength and capacity of the rural areas themselves. Despite the many changes we have experienced in recent times, these communities have remained strong. That is the resource that I speak about that has to be captured, and that is the potential that we do want to capture, both as a government, both as regional authorities and both as local authorities. This approach is very much reflected in the recent report of the CEDRA report, which sets out a vision for rural Ireland and a roadmap for addressing the challenges that face many rural areas. I recognise that the challenges facing rural Ireland are significant. I do, however, believe that the government is already supporting ways to ensure that regions play an ongoing and active part in the development of their areas. In this context, there are a few initiatives in particular that I would like to outline here today that I believe are going to change the face of local development as a result of regional development, as we move into what I believe to be a real era of prosperity for all parts of our country. The first of those initiatives is one being rolled out by the Department of Jobs, Enterprise and Innovation, and is based on the formula used in the very successful Action Plan for Jobs at a national level. Arising from the recognition that economic recovery and jobs growth are not being experienced to the same extent in all regions, the Government recently announced a 5-year, €250 million strategy as a companion to the National Action Plan for Jobs. The Action Plan for Jobs Regional specifically addresses the challenges of job creation at regional level and is based on the principle that the best way to support job creation in towns and villages across the country is to support agencies and organisations within each region to build on the particular strengths and assets of their own areas and drive new job creation strategies and projects. The objective of the new initiative is to strengthen and develop job creation in the regions by encouraging local authorities, regional bodies, higher education institutions and other public bodies, the private sector and down to the level of the communities themselves, to come forward with innovative ideas to boost job creation in their own area. So it firmly places the initiative down at community level, which is hugely important. The second initiative, I believe, will provide a strong long-term foundation for the future of both local and regional development is the drive to a much more coordinated approach to the delivery of local development funding, which my own department is leading. A key element is the remodelling of the role of local government to reflect the changing needs and structures of society, and Simon indeed has mentioned this himself. Having been given a more central role in economic development as well as in local and community development, local authorities are now ideally placed to promote an integrated and balanced approach to the social and economic development of their own areas. And indeed, Simon has demonstrated that, with his presentation about Westport and how the local authority was such a part of that. In June 2014, the system of town councils was replaced by a new system of municipal districts. This new arrangement is a radical and innovative departure in local government structures and governments in Ireland. It also has major significance for the economic and social progress of local communities. So the local authority is now going to be the driver of the local economy. A major feature of the new system is that urban centres have united with their rural hinterlands in each municipal district, which is how local government is structured throughout Europe. This reflects the importance of urban centres to the economic and social well-being of their rural hinterland, and the role that rural hinterland play in supporting the social and economic health of their settlements. So that is why the towns and villages in Ireland and their rural hinterlands are very, very important. The integration of settlement and countryside is also of great importance, and something which I hope to see reflected in a positive way in plans and strategies over the coming years. This principle is also an essential part of the Rural Economic Development Initiative, which will be reflected in the Leader local development strategies and in the local economic and community plans. A very important element of the reform of local government and its alignment with local development is the formation of autonomous local community development committees, and you've probably been hearing a lot about this recently. They are short now to LCDCs, whose role it is to ensure that funding is delivered to each area in a coordinated and a way that the areas that need it have it maximised to their needs and to their benefit. I believe that this drive towards a more coordinated approach is critical to ensure that all resources available at local and regional level are maximised and targeted where they are most needed. Participation in the development and delivery of local economic and community plans in partnership with the economic SPCs of the local authorities is a key function of the new committees, and I know that these plans are already very, very well advanced. I cannot emphasise enough how crucial it is for the future sustainable development of these areas that the first local economic and community plans lay a very, very strong foundation for the future development of the communities in which they will represent. I know that the implementation of these plans will require collaboration between a wide range of agencies with communities and local authorities, and I'm committed myself to doing whatever I can to promote that collaborative approach by government departments and central agencies. Also, in the context of my rural remit, I'm also charged with the overseeing and the implementation of the CEDRA recommendations, and there is significant work ongoing in various government departments to support that work. The Regional Action Plan for Jobs are rolling out over the next few months, and just last week the intervention strategy for the National Broadband Plan was launched by my colleague Minister White, and Bobby referred to this in his presentation as well. It's an important step in the implementation of the National Broadband Plan, as we are all aware that it is practically impossible to effectively conduct business without reliable and efficient broadband, and this is particularly critical when it comes to enterprise support and job creation. And also, as I travel to areas and communities around rural, I have to say without doubt that this is one of the single biggest and most important issues that has been raised with me. Access to and cost of high-quality broadband emerged from the CEDRA consultation process as one of the most significant challenges facing rural Ireland and one of the most significant challenges facing businesses in rural Ireland. Although it must be noted that as more services are delivered online, access to high-quality broadband is also becoming a social necessity as well. And for those of you who are mothers and parents indeed of, third-level students, there is, a lot of difficulties where they say they go home at the weekend and they haven't got a good internet speed and they find it difficult to do their assignments on the weekend. And that is an issue as well. While many rural businesses and households have access to a basic broadband service, there is a need to provide access to the kind of cost-effective, high-capacity internet service that is required to work in a modern business environment. This is the kind of service envisaged by the Intervention Strategy and National Broadband Plan in general. I am confident that the strategy will provide the necessary service to support the development of enterprise into rural Ireland. I've also launched with a budget of €2 million. I recently launched the pilot schemes for the Rural Economic Development Zones, REDS as they are now, and we're great at shortening these down to acronyms. REDS are now areas of activity that reflect the spatial patterns of local economic activities and development processes. They are sub-county zones within which most people live and work. I'm sure all of you are very, very familiar with the LEADER programme, and that the LEADER programme provides the ring-fenced support to rural Ireland, and how LEADER works with the communities in rural Ireland to provide sustainable development from Tipperary to Donegal and from Cork to Louth. I doubt that there is any rural community who haven't felt the benefits of LEADER since it was developed in 1991. And again, LEADER is delivered to a community-led approach through the medium of local development strategies. The government decided to allocate 7% of the overall rural development programme to the LEADER element, which is 2% more than the minimum required by the EU regulation. And this has resulted in €250 million for the period 2014 to 2020. And again, I say that is the ring-fenced government support to rural Ireland. Community initiatives require community spirit, planning and honest endeavour to survive. Involvement in community initiatives empowers people and provides them with the opportunity and framework to make a difference in the locality in which they live. And I think that Donegal is a perfect example of this. The LEADER programme facilitates this through the bottoms-up approach, which is where we want to be, that it's not Ann Phelan looking for her plan to be delivered, but it's the community themselves deciding themselves what they want for their own particular area, so that the community at all times is listened to, and it is the community plan that will be delivered. In conclusion, let me reiterate this government's commitment to rural Ireland and its development, and our commitment to addressing the challenges that the downturn presented to rural Ireland. This government is very committed to addressing the very serious economic and social setbacks that rural Ireland has experienced in recent years, with a long-term plan that will deliver jobs in rural Ireland into rich and vibrant, active communities. And this is not merely a statement of intent. And I have to also tell you my own commitment. I am also very, very passionate about rural Ireland. I live in a very rural community. I have seen at first hand the ravages that have taken place in rural Ireland, and we can all look to the past, and I could stand here in front of you and ream off all of the mistakes that I felt we made through planning, through whatever, government policies that didn't support rural Ireland, but I choose to see the glass half full. And that is the way I want to impart onto you today that we will deliver for rural Ireland in government. Thank you very much.